I haven't done a video in a while, but I've just started reading a book which I've been putting off for a bit, and it's actually turned out to be such an interesting book that I thought I really had to do a video. Um, it's called Our Common Future, um, probably more commonly known as the Brundtland Report. Um, World Commission on Environment and Development. It was published in 1988, I believe, so a whole 20 years ago. And I guess the reason that I put off reading the book is because I figured it had to be somewhat of a depressing read, really, because it's called Our Common Future, but we know what's happened since 1998. Laissez-faire capitalism and neoliberalism and the expansion of multinational corporations exploiting the planet. So whatever vision is contained in this book didn't pan out. But having said that, it's so packed with ideas that it's actually been really fascinating reading so far. I've only read the foreword by the chair of the organisation, and the overview of the report so far. It's really fascinating stuff. I want to pick out a few points from the summary of the report. I won't go into the foreword too much. I might pick a couple bits from it, but it'd take too long. So one of the first interesting things is just this could have. It seems in many ways like this could have been written yesterday. One of the first points on the very first page. We see instead the possibility for a new era of economic growth, one that must be based on policies that sustain and expand the environmental resource base, and we believe such growth to be absolutely essential to relieve the great poverty. So rather than the contemporary media frame of environment versus economy, which people are working really hard to get out of now, particularly I've seen the US is framing the issue as green jobs, which is really interesting. I really hope that they manage to do that, to say that, to point out what's been obvious all along, but perhaps has been sort of a side issue. People have been too concerned about saving the planet rather than the fact that we need to give people jobs from this new economy that we're going to build. But so seeing that 20 years ago is quite fascinating. And also in the foreword, the chairman says this, which sounds a lot like what sort of a main theme in the essay, the highly controversial essay, The Death of Environmentalism. When the terms of reference of our commission were originally being discussed in 1982, there were those who wanted its considerations to be limited to environmental issues only. This would have been a grave mistake. The environment does not exist as a sphere separate from human actions, ambitions and needs, and attempts to defend it in isolation from human concerns have given the very word environment a connotation of naivety in some political circles. So, which, from my understanding of the death of environmentalism, it was all about saying that environmentalism as a concept of the environment as being out there, and that is what we need to, or what needs to die. There are other ways of thinking about the problems that environmentalists are traditionally worried about. So I was just amazed that this was written 20 years ago, and it also made me sort of quite surprised why the death of environmentalism got quite so much publicity after reading this. Or why was it so contentious when it was being said? One of the key things, I think, was being said 20 years ago. The links between the economy and environment also sort of played out and described quite a bit in the overview. We have in the past been concerned about the impacts of economic growth upon the environment. We are now forced to concern ourselves with the impacts of ecological stress, degradation of soils, water regimes, atmosphere and forests upon our economic prospects. So saying that human activity having an impact on the environment is one thing. That's what environmentalists traditionally have been worried about. But a far bigger issue, one that can really bring in the whole economy, one sort of a really powerful idea that can actually engage with politicians, is that there are physical limits on the planet which are going to impinge on our economy. So I thought that was quite interesting. Another interesting point from the book was about inequality. Now, I've done a bit of reading about inequality in the United States and the way that income has changed over time and how poorly distributed this has been. Recent gains since the 1980s have been amongst the top percent, or not top tenth of a percent, or top hundredth of a percent of the top percent, whereas the median income and the people with median income and below have either had stagnating wages or decreasing wages. So that's just within the US. Obviously there's far greater inequality between nations, but I thought this was fascinating, and it's picked out as one of the key issues about how relating to how we actually solve environmental degradation of all varieties. Yet at the same time, these developing countries must operate in a world in which the resource gap between the most developing and industrial nations is widening, in which industrial world dominates the rulemaking of some key international bodies, and in which the industrial world has already used much of a planet's ecological capital. This inequality is the planet's main environmental problem. It is also the main development problem. So this answers straight on this accusation occasionally thrown at environmentalists that they're anti-growth or anti-development. I mean, any environmentalist would, most environmentalists would give you a gut reaction that that's nonsense, that's diversionary. It's a scare tactic used by the right and the corporate interests to stop meaningful action on the environment.